The ideas that gave birth to our nation are the ideas that our nation is resistant to right now, and we should talk about that all the time.
In a world where narratives are shaped by corporations and gatekeepers, independent voices matter more than ever. Badlands Media brings together citizen journalists, researchers, and independent thinkers.
The truth is triggering.
Question the narrative. Explore the facts.
It's authenticity, courage, resilience.
Search for the truth others won't.
It's not about being first or being right.
The information war is changing.
It's about being authentic.
Embrace the friction.
Embrace the friction.
Shut the f*** up.
Authentically antagonizing. Join the movement.
I'm going to say how I feel.
Follow Badlands Media.
This is about the future.
The Badlands. What are the Badlands? Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
When we're laying on our deathbed, you're not going to worry about how much money you had, how much power you had, how much prestige. You're going to see that that was all a game, that was all an illusion. The only thing that's going to matter is the impact you had on other people's lives.
We are all on a separate journey. But the beautiful thing about our life here on this earth is at my funeral, they ain't going to talk about my success. They're going to talk about who Nick was and how Nick lived and how Nick loved and encouraged.
Success is incredibly important, but even more important than success, it's having an impact. It's knowing you haven't walked the planet in vain. It's knowing that because you've been here, you've blessed lives, you've developed people, and you have made the world a better place.
The effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. Everything you gain in life will rot and fall apart, and all that will be left of you is what was in your heart.
Life is a mirror, and life gives us not what we want. Life gives us who we are. When you were born, you cried while the world rejoiced. Live your life in such a way that when you die, the world cries while you rejoice.
Have you ever stopped to wonder about the soul behind the spotlight? The truth behind the headlines? Beneath every glamorous facade lies a story waiting to be told. A journey full of triumphs, struggles, heartaches, and victories. Welcome to People, the groundbreaking new series here on the AlphaWarrior Show. Tonight, we're setting politics aside. No hidden agendas, no filters, just pure, raw humanity. In a world that constantly tries to categorize us, it's easy to forget what binds us together. Our shared experiences, our laughter, our tears, and the authentic moments that define who we truly are. Each week, we're going to explore the powerful, emotional, and beautifully imperfect lives of people who inspire us, captivate us, and remind us that we're all in this incredibly messy and extraordinary journey together. We'll laugh, we'll reflect, and we'll dive deep into the stories that often go untold, unapologetically, real, and deeply personal. Get ready to meet the heart behind the headlines, the reality behind the reputation, the persona behind the person, the grit that makes these amazing people tick. This is People, real stories, real connections, real life. And when we come back from this commercial, it's showtime, and I hope you enjoy. All right. So I just did 2 ads and this was hooked up to the wrong microphone. So you guys didn't hear a dang thing for the last 2 minutes. And we are going to fix that. So I'm going to wait to get some 5x5s to make sure the sound is good for you guys now. And my apologies for that. So as we have this slight delay, let me see if your 5x5s come in. And we'll start over. There we are. 5x5. We're going to try this. You guys, they were the greatest commercials ever and you missed it. So my apologies. Let's try this one more time with Benson Honey Farms. Welcome to Benson Honey Farms, where every jar is pure gold. Benson Honey is excited to be back on Badlands Media with their honey harvest straight from their never forgot the importance of sharing the best honey around. Did you know honey isn't just a sweet treat? It's nature's medicine. Perfect for alleviating allergies, soothing upset stomachs, or as delicious natural sweetener for baking. Benson honey is never heated, ensuring you receive it in its pure, raw form, full of natural goodness. At Benson Honey Farms, quality and purity is top priority, and they're committed to providing the finest honey from hive to home. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/honey and use promo code Badlands for 20% off your purchase. Benson Honey Farms, savor the authentic taste of Nebraska and support this America First business. Follow on Facebook at Benson Honey Farms and TikTok at Mo Benson Honey. Please catch up with Mo on the first episode of America's First Stories right here on Badlands Media. And next, we will go into the Van Man. Ready to upgrade your daily routine with truly clean, natural products, no exceptions? Start in the kitchen with Van Man's Pure Cooking Tallow, perfect for high heat cooking and adding rich, clean flavor to your meals. For your daily cleanse, try gentle tallow soaps, the classic honey, pine tar, or coconut. These bars deliver a rich, natural lather that leaves your skin feeling clean, soft, and refreshed. Give your smile real care with Miracle Tooth Powder in flavors like Mint Bone, Cinnabone, or Original. Customers rave about whiter, stronger teeth and fresher breath with no harsh chemicals. Van Man also offers great products like hair care, eye cream, and more, all made with clean, natural ingredients and no exceptions. Right now, enjoy free shipping on orders over $40. So head to badlandsmedia.tv/VanMan today. That's badlandsmedia.tv/VanMan. I can't believe we pulled a rookie mistake tonight, folks. And one more is going to populate on the screen right now. If you're watching on Rumble, make sure you scan that QR code. Quick question. How much control do you actually have over your money right now? Technology has changed everything, and now it's changing how money works. Crypto started as a niche, but now it's going mainstream. Faster payments, more control, fewer middlemen. This isn't hype. It's just where things are going. And getting started today is easier than you think. That's where Rumble Wallet comes in. With Rumble Wallet, you can buy Bitcoin, hand dollar-backed stable coins, even own digital gold backed by real gold, all in one place. Simple setup. It connects with MoonPay so that you can use your debit card, credit card, or bank account and be up and running in minutes. It's not about the amount, it's about getting in early and understanding what's coming next. And once you're set up, you can even tip your favorite Rumble creators like me directly. So do this now. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description and download the Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set up your wallet, tap buy, and you're in the game. Take control of your money. Get started with Rumble Wallet today. And if you're watching on one of the other Rumble platforms and say, I don't see the QR code, that's because it's on Alpha Show. Again, folks, the links to all the today's sponsors, partners, and affiliates is down in the description, including the links to our guests, the pledge that we're going to be talking about, and a special man named Boone Cutler and his family. So I'll ask you guys to do this. Please make sure you visit those links. Those will be the first links you see. This show was recorded this morning, but I'll be in the live chat with you. So if you guys got Rumble rants, I would definitely appreciate that. So with that, I'll see you on the other side. Enjoy the show. Again, folks, remember, support the people that support this show. Those links all down in the description, especially if you're watching the replay. You know, I love the series People, where we just get everyday Americans with extraordinary stories and extraordinary works, you know, our real-time legends. And tonight's story, we have Chief Master Sergeant retired from the Air Force, Paul Drury, in here. We're going to hear a little bit about his background. That's going to lead us into the Spartan Pledge, something that's very near and dear to so many of us with regards to our veterans. And the one thing that I've realized in my life, and especially in the last few years, whether it be the first responder community that I had the honor to serve with, or whether it be the veteran community that I had the honor to serve with, is that people need purpose. And when that purpose can't be found, places get real dark. And so the Spartan Pledge is a way to make sure that we always have purpose. And we're going to get into that. But before we do that, I want to welcome my guest to the show tonight, retired Chief Master Sergeant Paul Drury. How are you doing, sir? And thank you for joining us.
Wonderful.
So, I saw someone talk about a coin that's coming, and we're going to get into that later on the show. And I said, hey, how can I help? How can I get this, this story out to people? And they said, you got to talk to this guy. And I said, you just keep pointing me in the right direction, and I'll work my way down the hallways to find who I need to find. And eventually, that path led me to you, and I'm very appreciative of you carving out that time, so we can cover something that's really important. So before we kind of get to where this story's going, part of people is just understanding, who's this person on the other side of the camera? Who's this person I'm watching on my phone? Or who's this person I'm watching on my TV screen? And today that would be you. So Paul, tell us a little bit about yourself. What even got you to go into the military?
Lived Rust Belt, Ohio. Graduated in 1979. Working in a factory building furnaces. They laid us off. Before that, I was working construction. Laid us off. What else are we going to do? A buddy of mine joined the Air Force, went into security forces. He came back and he talked to two of us and talked us into joining the Air Force. I couldn't even have identified a fighter plane at the time. So I had previously checked with the Navy, scored real high in the ASVAB, and they wanted to stick me in a nuclear program. I didn't want to sleep on the nuclear reactor in a sub. I'm sorry, just not my thing. So I went and checked with the recruiter. Recruiter looked at my score and said, dude, I think you'd be great in armament systems. And I said, what's that? He goes, never mind, it'll be great. So then he talked me into going in 6 years, so I got an extra stripe coming out. What else am I going to do? So I joined aircraft armament systems. What is it? I don't know. They originally had us scheduled. I went to basic training March of 80. Okay. Jimmy Carter's still president. Hostages are in Iran. What are we going to do? While in basic training, they tried to rescue the hostages with that failed attempt. Eagle 1, whatever name of it was. And we were out on grass cutting duty, and Jimmy Carter comes rolling by in his limo so he could go visit one of the burn victims there. And it's okay, cool. But we got into it right after that. The commander explained to us the next major war we'd probably fight would be over the Strait of Hormuz for the free flow of oil at market prices. This is April of 1980. Everybody's looking at each other like, what in the world? We're head to head with Russia. There's a lot of things going on in Europe. That's what he dropped on us. Okay, that's an interesting note. So anyway, I joined the Air Force, went from San Antonio, went to Lowry in Colorado, tech school, armament systems, had me scheduled to work on F4s. Then they changed that and put me on F-106s. Like, what in the world is that? Those were the fighter interceptors that we had at the time. So went in and worked on those for a couple of years in New York, upstate New York. Then I went to England for a couple of years, worked on A-10s, the Gatling gun system. We were loading them, we were rebuilding them, cleaning them, fixing the stuff, when they came back broke. We did all the aircraft armament systems, the launchers, the bomb racks, did the whole shebang for 2 years. Coolest thing about the A-10, from my opinion, is when you got to go out and work on the flight line, it has an APU inside, an auxiliary power unit, that you crank up. It's in the back of it. It's got the strength of one of the engines. And you crank that thing up and put the headsets on and communicate with the ground crews. You can do hydraulics, electrical, everything you need to do. It does not need ground power equipment to function. So it's cool as all get out. Then came back, worked on B-52s for another year, got out, joined the Air Guard. I just wanted to get my degree, right? I just wanted to go for 6 years, get my degree. I ended up spending 23 years in. All 3 of my combat tours are with the Air Guard. Nothing big. Operation Northern Watch. I'm not going to embellish anything. But still got to, go on the flight line. We were flying over Iraq almost every day. Coolest thing is walking around the F-15 Strike Eagles when the engines are running and the planes that start thundering down the ramp. 0600 in the morning, go till about 10 o'clock at night, and just that thunder, you could feel it in your chest. It's cool. But anyway, we did that for a few years. I ended up putting on Chief Master Sergeant. We were working on F-16s. I got my ride in an F-16 in the back seat before I retired. So it's cool as all get out. Need to let people know, Air Force, I didn't sleep in my first tent until I'd been in 20 years over in Incirlik, Turkey, Operation Northern Watch. So, you know, what they say, the Navy guides the ships by the stars, the Army guides their, you know, the guys on the ground by the stars, and there we judged our hotels by the stars. So, but
must be nice.
Yeah. So you get out and you're trying to find your way. I have a lot of military friends that are all over this country. Stay in contact with them on a regular basis, catch up with them, go on, you know, camping trips or go visit them. And so it kind of pulled me into this movement, this whole community that we've got here. It's not just military, a lot of civilians out there, but we're keeping track of what's happening. And through some of that, I was able to attend a Flynn movie a couple of years ago. It was sold out, and I had no idea if we're going to get in, but my girlfriend said, look, I got a feeling we need to go. We need to go to this thing. I said, it's sold out. She says, I got a feeling we need to go. So we go, knock on the door, and lady answers the door, and I explain, you know, I got to fly back to Ohio here real soon. I can't stay longer. I can't go to the other show. This is it. It's sold out. Can we buy a ticket to get in? She goes inside. Heidi, Defender of the Republic, comes outside. She goes, can I help you? And I told her. She went back in. Comes back out a few minutes later with a couple lanyards. She says, here. They said, come on in. So at that point, I really went there to go see Ivan and meet Ivan because he had done his the whole shebang about the Pence card, January 6th. You know, how they should have taken it back and just simply asked him to verify. They didn't do that. So I did get to meet Ivan. I got to meet Matt Struck. I got to meet Boone's son, Wade. He was doing the books at the time. Met a lot of really profound people. So come full circle, that's how I actually got back into it through the community after Boone passed. We had an idea to do, it was actually Penny. There's a whole bunch of people I got to do on this. This is Penny's idea. She had contacted Scott Zimmerman with Beer at the Parade, and Scott says, hey, I know a guy who's done coins. So they called me, and that's how it all began. A lot of people contributed in this thing, and we can go through that afterwards, like to give credit to the people.
Absolutely. So, and we'll get into that right now, but I want to rewind just a few moments because
sure,
you mentioned an extraordinary experience that you have. And there's not a whole lot of people that have a story where I envy. Like I envy. And you know, I was an 80s kid, that I grew up in. So, growing up, through preschool, my mom had this book, she still has it, and you put your little school picture in there and what do you want to be when you grow up? And every year of my life, cop, 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 cop. But there was a year where it said fighter pilot. And that would line up with the movie Top Gun, the original, folks, the original. And I had a love for planes after that, for the rest of my life. Still wanted to be a cop, but it was just, if there was another life, I would have loved to have been a fighter pilot. And so there's, all these, I'm in Southern California. So we see a lot of the planes that take off and do runs down here, especially going towards Yuma, and you get to see all the different ones. And I always look up and I'm like, what would that have been like? What if, right? You said you got to do a retirement flight in an F-16, the Fighting Falcon.
In the back seat, Block 42.
Share a little bit more about that experience. Help me to feel what you got to experience.
It was part of a Finney flight. If you're retiring, they'll give you an opportunity to get a flight in there. Not everybody did it. There was a few times where we just didn't have a plane available because it was down for maintenance, but you got to have the two-seater. We only had one. A couple times we had two, but we had one two-seater. And so I said, oh, yeah. So the first thing they do is they schedule you for your parachute training. Why? Because you got to know what to do if you got to eject from the thing. My life's motto is I'm never jumping out of a plane willfully if it's perfectly functional. Why would you do such a thing? But in this case, you go in for your parachute training, figure out, how to work the ropes. If you got a chute caught, back up, what to expect when you eject, how to figure out, how to guide the thing. So we did the parachute training, and then it was time to go in there and we get a mission brief. Pilots go. I worked in the ops area. We worked for wing safety. So I was a weapons safety guy before I retired. And so we go in and sit down for the briefing, and they explain, here's what we're going to do. Originally, we were supposed to go up in Michigan. They were going to do some practice dummy bomb drops, and they were going to go on that. But they decided, I knew the pilot. I had worked for him for a number of years in the safety office. He was in charge of flight safety. And he said, we're not going to do that. We're just going to go out over Indiana, and we're going to fly over the farm fields and check it out because the skies are overcast. So, all right, cool. I don't care. I don't care where we go. So we get in there, get on the end of the runway, get to take off. The takeoff is amazing. I didn't quite take my breath as deep and as hard as I needed to. I think I only hit about 6.8 Gs coming up. And, they was going to try and take me up higher than that. But it was, yeah, they try to G as much as they can on that first run just for the shock value. And so we go out and we're out over Indiana, flying a little bit. And then he gives me a little bit of instructions on the stick. And I already know kind of how the stick works. You don't have a stick in the middle in between your legs. In an F-16, it leans way back in the seat. And you've got your stick that controls the elevation, and the steering is on the right-hand side. There's a little armrest. And then your throttle is on the left. He said, don't mess with the throttle. Okay, that's the deal. So, but the stick is on the right, and he's explaining, and he says, all right, I want you to go ahead and do some barrel rolls. I'm like, oh, wasn't expecting that. Sweet. And he says, whatever you do not do a 16-point roll. What's that? He goes, when you go over, bring the stick over, because it only moves 1/4 inch. That's how sensitive the thing is. You're just moving it with your wrist only and your fingers. And so I crank it over, and it went so doggone fast, of course, I let off. It's like kind of a little spooky. He goes, I told you not to do that. And I tried a couple more times. Well, then we had to level it off and take the altitude back on, because it doesn't matter where it's a fighter or bomber. When you're sideways in the air, it does not hold altitude. I don't care how hard you have. That little thing on the back tail is not going to keep you up. So anyway, we had to go back nose up a little bit, and then I got to do it. I got to do barrel rolls on a couple of different cycles. So that was pretty cool. We flew down off the deck, right down. We were about 18,000 feet, flew down to the hard deck, and right just over the farm fields and the farmers' houses. And then he cranked it back to slow our speed down. Man, it felt like there were brakes on this thing, but you're not touching the ground anywhere. It really, really slows down a heartbeat. You just feel your body pressing against your harness. But it was pretty cool. And then we flew around for about an hour and a half, and then came back and landed. And so, wow. Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
An hour and a half, man. I would have been like 15 minutes on that.
Well, yeah, he says, where's your sick bag? I says, you were awful quiet back there. I said, man, I was just taking it in. I said, just taking it in. That's when you realize all the big bang booms that I loaded in my Air Force career and all the stuff I did on the planes, I had the wrong job. They always told me if you had glasses, you couldn't be a pilot. And I found out that wasn't true. But your pilots, their ability to understand the situational awareness around you is amazing. All of the inputs, everything they hear, including the warning voice that comes off everything, all the instrumentation, being aware of their altitude, their oxygen flow, what else is in the environment. It's an amazing thing. They really, really, they train them well. The pilots are a little wild goose, but they got to have a little bit of an ego. I don't know about Top Gun level, but yeah, they got to be pretty bold. They got to be very self-confident in there to be able to handle it.
And I agree completely with you with pilots, but also in order for them to have that time they invest to master their craft, they have to trust a lot of people to be masters at their craft. Whether it be, the maintenance chief, whether it's armament, the people, you can't even wonder Is my load on there correctly? Is my weight balance correct? It just, because you wouldn't be able to do your job, so
Exactly.
it's
There's
it's
nothing like the crew chiefs. Yeah, there's nothing like the crew chiefs. The weapons loader's got to be in sync. We go out there, use a checklist, but it could take 35 minutes to do a weapons load, but you've got to run through. There's a checklist and there's a specific procedure for everything that you do. You don't deviate from that. You don't deviate from it. We've have too many weapons loaders that have actually end up dead from, an unstable load or getting smashed in a weapons bay door. It's not pretty. It's dangerous work.
It is. When I went to Iraq back in 2003, Marine Infantry, but we were reconnaissance scouts attached to the LAV. So a lot of my infantry brothers were like, you weren't really infantry because you didn't have to march. Like, stop hating, don't be jealous. But I was also a backup driver. They had a couple of us that wanted to do it. Listen, people want to know how the story came. I was trying to avoid a working party. They're like, right? You understand who wants to get licenses for backup drivers? I was like, I'll go do that. So
what was amazing is I spent 2 years working the A-10s. We were not at war. So we had 144 of them in England, and there were 6 detachments over in Europe, and we created like an umbrella, kind of a shield in case the Russians came across. That was it back in the Cold War. It was 83 to 85. We had 144 of those things, and they're flying off, and they sound like little heavy duty whistles going overhead, kind of a funky sound when they buzz overhead. But nobody actually was protected by them, governed them. We didn't know how well they would actually perform in combat. And then after the first Gulf War, and all the guys are like, when they hear the Burt, the sound of that gun, if you hear the Burt, you're already okay. You're already safe because the rounds travel faster than sound. So you hear the Burt after the rounds are hitting their target. So I love the Burt.
Oh, it was great, but it just it made me have an appreciation for you're popped out of that hatch in the back, looking at windows, you're looking at vulnerabilities. You don't have time to think about what the driver's doing. But what I got to experience during my time doing that was, man, these drivers, they got to make sure that the terrain they're heading to is something that can support that vehicle so it doesn't get stuck. Because if it gets stuck,
situational awareness is critical.
Insane. Because guess what? If that vehicle did get stuck, we're going to be the ones that have to pop out the back and secure that area. And if it's an area you haven't planned to have to secure,
right?
It's your heart rate starts to raise pretty damn quick, and you're stress and cortisol, which brings me to, speaking of stress and our military, I know that our military right now is trying to make some changes, and I love that. I support that, and I pray that continues. But for a long time, decades, our military guys, and I always have a love for my heart, even as a cop. If there was a way that I could help, arrange something so I didn't destroy this veteran's career, this active military guy's career, I did it. There was just a level of love that I afforded. Didn't matter what branch.
Yeah.
And that's never left me. And what I've witnessed through, the last, 2 decades of my life, Paul, is once our military gets out, they're forgotten. The homeless crisis we have with our veterans, it's, and this is starting to change. And I don't want to take away from the active changes that are happening now. I don't think they're happening fast enough. But I remember telling my family, if something happens to me, don't ever send me to the VA, because every friend that I had that went to the VA, didn't matter what their issue was, Paul, didn't matter what their issue was, eventually came back an addict. And I was just like, hell no. Like, I'm not going that route. Never went. To this day, not one time have I gone to the VA because of that fear that I had. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the stress they put on the VA is, for all their government programs, they still operate like a government. We've now lost more vets to suicide than we've lost in all the combat operations way back to Vietnam. It's staggering. The stress that they put in there, as you just explained, your driver, when you were over there overseas, and you get a couple IEDs that go off around them, or if they're involved in a couple of those, or they're involved in close-in combat situations, a lot of them struggle with the effects from that. They're very, very intense these days. World War II, yeah, we had a lot of issues. I'm not saying that we're involved a little bit more, but with the high-tech weaponry and how specific it goes, it makes things quite difficult. And we tend to write off things from prior. We didn't address them. But as a society, we have more information these days. And with more information, that requires a greater level of responsibility to deal with the information you have. And that's, I think, where we failed a little bit. And I like where it's going. And when I saw the program, I was like, oh my gosh, I think I can add something. I'm just one guy out here in the field, as you and I talked about, just one guy. I don't carry the world on my shoulders. I don't have huge followers. How can I get involved, and how can I help multiply the effects of something else? And that's kind of where this went, because I've experienced the VA system, and I know a few people that have ended their own lives. It's tragic.
And this is what's important. We were babies, 20, 21, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 years old. At the time, you think I'm a man. In hindsight, you look back, you're like a damn baby, right? You're still figuring out how a damn credit card works, right? Like you are a baby.
I didn't even have one. Yeah. Oh yeah. Back then,
we were babies. And I remember one of the times, being in the back of the LAV, and I'm looking down at my feet, because those things are, we do not build, maybe aside from pilots, but we do not build everything else in our military for comfort. That's for damn sure. And I remember looking down under my boots, and there's, det cord, there's, HE rounds, and I'm just thinking, if a bullet hits the right spot in this vehicle, like, we're going to be one big ass firecracker.
Yeah, that's where the weapon safety guy just says, I'm sorry, I didn't see any of this.
And I remember the first time, because combat's new.
Right.
The war was just started. The level of stress, but then there comes a point where your body, because God created us as amazing mechanisms, and you learn to acclimate to that stress. So now there's a new baseline, but then a new fear comes up. Like you just said a few moments ago, you hear about IEDs going off, and it was a sandbag. There was a refrigerator on the side, Route Sioux heading somewhere. And so now all of a sudden you're popped out of your hatch, and every time you see a sandbag coming, it's just like, and you're holding your breath as you drive by, because realistic folks, you don't get to stop and inspect every single one, or you'd never make it anywhere. And then they would turn that into an ambush.
Yeah, it took the guys a little while to figure out that if they're going down the road and they saw a new repair, that was not a road repair.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a booby trap buried.
Yeah.
And repaved over top of it.
Well, so now that new baseline of stress comes, and you acclimate to this new thing, to where you see the sandbags and you're like, whatever, refrigerator, whatever. So now your baseline's here. And folks, this happens, and your baseline keeps raising and raising and raising. That's not healthy for a human being. And then, when you demobilize, or when you check out and you get out, there's not this extensive military course that says, hey, we got to unpack all this, and we need to make sure you remember what it was like when you were just a normal Joe, or a normal Jane. Like, we don't have a legitimate system. There's some programs now, but we don't have a legitimate system that creates an honest exit strategy. So these guys get thrown out into the world.
The mission thing that Boone hit on is pretty critical too, because over when you're active duty, you have a mission, and everything's spelled out. What you're doing, where you're going. It's kind of pre-decided, but you have depending upon your rank, you've got a kind of a theater of operations where you still control part of your mission, but you're mission oriented. Well, when you get out, what's my mission? Who am I? Where's my place? And so there's a lostness that happens without a mission.
And that loss, that emptiness, if it's not treated well, folks, I consider myself lucky. I consider myself an anomaly when I hear the stories of my friends. that takes these are the strong. These are not weak men. People don't think because they committed suicide they were weak. Trust me, I fought with these guys. These guys were warriors. I remember getting a phone call, Wayne, what? No way. Like, I wanted to be like that guy. He was so strong. And so that tells you that there's just something that just comes undone. And these people go down a path to where they don't want to be a burden on society now. And that suicide becomes the option. And it happens, it's gone down a little bit, but it's still too significant. The number that everybody's aware of is 22, a day. I think we've dropped it to 19, but then I think it went up a little bit.
The 2025 report takes it back up again.
Yeah. And because of that, this brings us to the story of Boone Cutler. And Boone Cutler, amongst his friends, and we're going to watch a video right now. It's about 16 minutes. That's going to share how this Spartan Pledge came to be. And then on the other end of this, me and Chief Master Sergeant will continue our conversation. So let me bring this up on the screen, folks, and we will see you in just a few minutes. You guys enjoy this. And really, if you're doing something, pause and really just take in this video.
Introducing the Spartan Pledge Challenge Coin. What comes to mind when you hear the number 22? That's the tragic number often cited, the number of veterans lost to suicide each and every day. But this isn't about debating a statistic. It's about confronting a reality and finding solutions. How does this happen? How do some of the world's strongest warriors end up feeling isolated, forgotten, without hope? You might be saying to yourself, isn't the VA there to help? What can I possibly do? And too often the news narratives leave us stuck, angry, overwhelmed, feeling powerless. But we are not powerless. We are not victims of others. 22 is just part of the current narrative, but it doesn't have to stay that way. And the good news is this story is not finished. Years ago, the military organically started buddy systems in the field. It was natural for the men to start taking care of each other at the lower field level, with each person simply helping the person next to them. As higher levels of command took notice, the concept eventually evolved into a warrior ethos for our military personnel. The exact phrase used for buddy care will vary depending on the service. Battle buddies for the Army and Marines, shipmates for the Navy, and wingmen for the Air Force. What if a significant part of the answer to veteran of first responder suicides was using that as the very mechanism? What if there was a solid potential program that helped empower military, veterans, and first responders to take care of themselves and hold each other accountable? What if such a program not only empowered them, but also gave them a mission? A program with the ability to provide a platform allowing veterans and non-veterans alike to receive and provide mission resources to take a leap that no government program can provide. Generally speaking, suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem that may actually resolve itself in time. One of the greatest hurdles that keeps veterans and first responders from stepping forward and seeking help through normal established channels are the resulting punitive actions that happen immediately thereafter coming forward. It does not matter how temporary their struggle is, whether it be personal loss, divorce, physical, mental, emotional, or other temporary situations. Current programs often result in punitive actions and responses. Military personnel and first responders may lose security clearances, positions of authority and leadership, and even potential future promotion opportunities. Veterans get marked, and their records are all noted, and at times the VA will mark them as functionally debilitated. The system currently employed by the government creates tags and labels. Aside from disclosure to a chaplain, there is no confidentiality, no anonymity, and no escape from the shame of admitting that they need help. This is where the buddy, peer-to-peer, one-on-one accountability system kicks in and becomes the backbone. The "Hey man, how are you doing?" check and balance accountability. The Spartan Pledge is a direct acceptance of accountability to the battle buddy or first responder buddy system. We would like to introduce you to the late Boone Cutler. the namesake of the Boone Cutler Foundation.
The Spartan Pledge kind of looks like this, and then I'll give you the rundown of how it got started and how popular it's become. Not really popular, just effective. I will not take my own life by my own hand until I talk to my battle buddy first. My mission is to find a mission to help my warfighter family. That's the Spartan Pledge. It's nothing you have to memorize verbatim, but just get the gist of it. And that is, we don't kill ourselves until we talk to our battle buddy. And our mission in life is to have a mission that helps our warfighter family. About 3 years ago, when it started between two guys, myself and my battle buddy, Nacho. We were in Iraq together, and we'd lost touch with each other. He called me one night when he was upset because a friend of his had committed suicide. This guy, if I'm not mistaken, was a police officer at the time, but he was also a warfighter. He was a veteran. And that brought up the subject of suicide between us. And we realized that both of us had spent a lot of time thinking about suicide, but not talking about it. And with the suicide rate in America being what it is today with warfighters, it's something that is a definite, relevant subject. Since then, I've taken that pledge with other warfighters, more than I can honestly remember. And now not too many people take that pledge with me because they've gone on to take that pledge with other guys, and it's just permeated throughout the community. Every guy I know that I took that pledge with has taken it with several other guys. It's been put on posters on Facebook and all over the place. And in my opinion, nobody owns it. We all own it. We all own a piece of it. We all have a piece of that, the Spartan Pledge, because it's something that means something. Because we don't trust the doctors. We don't even trust our family members, but we trust our battle buddies. So take that pledge with your battle buddy. And remember, if someone takes that pledge with you, that means you're taking it with them. Me, I'd have to call and contact a lot of people if I was going to off myself. And they would, because I took a pledge. That's the descendants of Sparta. That's what it's all about. That's what the Spartan Pledge is. If we can just do that, we don't need all the other stuff. We take care of ourselves, we take care of our own, and we maintain a mission focus. Spartan Pledge. That's where it comes from, and you decide where it goes. Contact a battle buddy. Talk to him. Find out that what you realize and what you think is reality is not necessarily reality. We all are going through the same thing in silence. You don't have to sign a paper. You don't have to make a dedication online. It's just a phone call between two guys, two warfighters, male or female. Doesn't matter. I will not take my own life by my own hand until I talk to my battle buddy first. My mission is to find a mission to help my warfighter family. All the way. Make it happen.
The namesake of the Boone Cutler Foundation, and allow Boone to tell you about finding a mission. The Spartan Pledge. I will not take my life by my own hands until I talk to my battle buddy first. My mission is to find a mission to help my warfighter family. I will not take my life by my own hands until I talk to my battle buddy first. My mission is to find a mission to help my warfighter family. These words constitute the Spartan Pledge, a solemn oath taken man to man, warrior to warrior. They're meant to address the separation and loss of power and identity many veterans and first responders go through, and to reverse the disturbing trend of suicide among active duty, Guard, and Reserve personnel, veterans of the U.S. military, and first responders. We'd like to show you an example of some of these courageous individuals discussing how the Spartan Pledge makes a difference.
I will not
take my own life by my own hand
until I talk to my battle buddy first.
My mission
is to find a mission
to help my warfighter family.
I'm Boone Cutler, and I'm the author of the Spartan Pledge. So the Spartan Pledge is a battle drill. It's a plan. It's what to do when you don't know what to do. And it's a promise to say, no matter how bad things get, I'm going to reach out. I'm going to contact you. It's also a promise to do something on behalf of the warfighter community and maintain a mission.
Because a warfighter without a mission is a dead warfighter, but a warfighter with a mission is a deadly warfighter. When I told Carl Monger, he's a good friend of mine. He runs an organization called Gallant Few. He's a mentor to me. He's an advisor to me. When I told him what me and my buddies were doing, he was like, Boone, I think you got something. I think you really got something here. This is something we should promote. From his networks, guys started taking it one-on-one, guys in groups. And then from there, now Soldier Heart picked it up. He's doing it at concerts.
Once Boone told me about the Spartan Pledge, I wanted to promote it in the best way that I know how, you know, what I do. How can I incorporate the Spartan Pledge into music? How can I do that? Every warfighter knows about taking the oath. We take oaths very seriously. Well, why not invite warfighters in the audience to come up on stage and take the Spartan Pledge? So every show that I did, no matter where I went, it's always been part of my show.
So far, since this entire journey has started, the most humbling thing I've seen is for someone to say, I want to contribute to this. But when Danny Prince got into the picture, an FDNY firefighter, he had in his possession actual metal from the World Trade Center.
I'd on many trips going to Walter Reed. We met so many different people. One of them was Steve Danluke, and he had introduced me and told me about the Spartan Pledge. And they were telling about how there's 22 vets a day that are committing suicide and how that's just totally unacceptable.
I mean, immediately the pledge resonated with me. So talking with Danny, we felt that, you know, hey, you know, let's do something with the steel.
So we said, why don't we make a sword out of the steel from 9/11? And just the reverence and the importance of that steel would mean so much more to these servicemen and women.
So that's what we did, you know, and contacted a couple other guys. They did some research, found a swordsmith down in Texas, and you know, it wasn't very long at all. It was a couple months later we had the final product, which was the sword.
We're talking about the same thing that every warfighter joined in this current era is there because of what happened at the World Trade Center and the Pentagon on 9/11. And so we come full circle now by creating a sword out of that tragic event that inspires people to live. That's humbling. That's something that touches your heart. When people touch that sword, it's like connecting with all the souls we lost. People ask me, Boone, what are you going to do with the Spartan Pledge next? I'm just the author. I'm not doing anything with the Spartan Pledge next because it belongs to the community. So the question is, what are you going to do with the Spartan Pledge next? I will not take my own life by my own hand.
I will not take my own life by my own hand.
Until I talk to my battle buddy first.
Until I talk to my battle buddy first.
My mission.
My mission.
Is to find a mission.
Is to find a mission.
To help my warfighter family.
To help my warfighter family.
You may have heard Boone Cutler's name in recent times associated with Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. Boone co-wrote the 5G warfare books and was also a close confidant of General Flynn. We would like to tell you a little more about Boone Cutler and the start of what we know today. Cutler was inspired to join the Army after learning about the U.S. invasion of Panama in 1989. I remember the headline, he said. The 82nd Airborne Division had just jumped into Panama. I left home at 17 and joined the Army Airborne Infantry when I was 18. He later reclassified his military occupational specialty and joined the Psychological Operations, or PSYOP, community. Cutler deployed to Sadr City in 2005 as a PSYOP team sergeant. Serious orthopedic and traumatic brain injury sent him to Walter Reed Army Medical Center for 2 years. While there, doctors told him he was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, a diagnosis he had no intention of accepting at the time. The years that followed were difficult. Cutler was on several prescription drugs, and he grappled with violent outbursts and suicidal thoughts. In 2010, he was shocked to learn that he was not alone. In a conversation with his closest battle buddy from Iraq, Cutler asked his friend if he'd ever considered suicide. Every day, his buddy answered, Cutler was shaken. How could guys be so close on active duty, literally covering each other's backs in a kinetic environment, know everything about each other, every hiccup, every burp, every fart, literally everything, and we don't know about each other after we come home? Shortly thereafter, he called another friend who had been on his team. He discovered that teammate was struggling too. He had been contemplating taking his own life and hadn't left home in 2 years. This was the genesis of the Spartan Pledge, a battle drill that, in Cutler's words, helps warfighters know what to do when they don't know what to do. We made an agreement, Cutler said. We knew we couldn't actually stop each other from killing ourselves, but it was kind of a respect thing. If you're going to do that, I can't stop you. But don't leave me spinning around on the planet for the rest of my life, wondering what happened and if there was something I could have done. Now, the pledge is 2 sentences, but it literally started out as, "Motherfucker, you'd better call me." Sadly, Boone passed away in October of 2025 as a result of the continuing ongoing medical conditions from his own combat injuries. The Spartan Pledge program is still operating and ready to continue on. It is solid and ongoing. The Boone Cutler Foundation is up and running with his mission in mind, operating with volunteers at the ready. These 2 items, the Spartan Sword and the Firefighter's Axe, are significant in and of themselves, as they were forged from steel recovered from the World Trade Center buildings that fell on 9/11. As such, these items are actually registered in the National Registry and are on protective status when not on tour. To keep the mission efforts of the Boone Cutler Foundation alive and moving forward, we are offering you the opportunity to be a force multiplier. We have designed a challenge coin in honor of Boone Cutler and the Spartan Pledge. Many people have participated in its design, and we sincerely hope that it honors Boone's memory and it carries on the tradition of the mission that he started. The front of the challenge coin features a likeness of Boone, with the first part of the pledge extending around the perimeter. The rear of the coin features an image of the fireman's axe and the Spartan sword itself, with the remainder of the pledge running round the perimeter. We have also placed 4 of Boone's admonitions inset within the axe and sword. We designed a challenge coin that can be a thank you to foundation donors for financial contributions. These challenge coins will be available to be given to those who take the pledge as a solemn physical marker of that pledge. We are soliciting financial support to secure the first large batch of challenge coins for the Boone Cutler Foundation. With your help, our hope is to raise a minimum of $10,000 to purchase a large quantity of the challenge coins. To get started, we need your help. We are looking to raise the funds for these challenge coins up front and present them to the foundation. Please consider making a donation of any amount you feel you are able to make. You can donate to the official Give, Send, Go account here.
All right, folks. One thing I want to make sure that we cover, and those links are also going to be down in the description. If you want to help to contribute to the Spartan Pledge, anything that you're able to do, no matter a little from a lot of people makes a big difference, and a lot from a few people makes a difference, to put that out there. But also want to make sure that people understand that Boone had a family, and that family's still here, and things are not easy for that family. So links to support Boone's wife and his family will also be down in the description below. And you've seen them scrolling across the bottom of the screen as well. You know, Paul, he is missed. You know, for those that knew Boone, he is missed. And you know, a plan to do something when you don't know what to do, and it's so important. And you know, for us, we come from a community, you know, where challenge coins is not just some metal thing it's in your pocket. You know, it's you're handing something to somebody else. It's almost like a warrior handshake. You know, this is going from me to you. And there's it's challenge coins are way more important than just something that looks cool. And I hope people understand that. And this one is very important. So let me turn it over to you. Tell us a little bit more about this.
Yeah, when I first put on Chief Master Sergeant, Command Chief Chris Monty, in the ceremony, he looked me right in the eye and he put a coin in. The way we do it is we put the coin in the palm of our hands, shake the hand, and leave it in the other person's hand on the completion. And while you shake hand, you usually say something significant, profound as gratitude. It's an honor. It's a tradition of honor. And Chris looked at each and every one of the people and he'd say, it's not about you anymore. Now, in the context of putting on chief, we've got our rank. Now it's time not to focus on ourselves, but to take care of everybody else. It's not about you anymore. So when you process that and you're able to go with it, I want to tell you a little God story. I told you before, we went down there to Grapevine, Texas to get into the event. And Defender of the Republic, she had come to the door, got in. I didn't know at that time, I didn't know until a week ago, when she went back inside to get permission to let us in, it was Boone that she had talked to. And Boone is the one who gave her the 2 things that said, yes, let them in. The only reason I'm doing this today is because I got to meet these people and develop a relationship with them and speak with them on a face-to-face level and develop, relationships within that community. Had Boone himself not said, let them in, and handed her 2 lanyards to give to me, this coin would not be happening. So talk about full circle. And on the coin, you'll see Isaiah 6:8, I believe, a little reference to scripture reference. And also says, here am I, send me. And so people said, I'm just sitting back here. I really don't know what I can do in the movement. I don't know what I can do to help the rest of the Patriots. I don't know what I can do for the January Sixers, everything they spent. A little bit. Get to know people, talk to people, share your heart and soul. Because of that full circle, we are able to do that. Now, the front of the coin, the design, I had sent that back to Defender Republic. She checked with Melissa, who's Boone's widow. Melissa absolutely loved it. So we went with that. She just loved the front of that. I needed something for the back. I had presented a coin myself to General Flynn and Ivan in Pittsburgh at an America's Future event. Well, I went back to another event and I was able to see General Flynn at that, and I talked to him about it. And I said, sir, do you remember the coin I presented you? He goes, absolutely. I love that. I love that coin. I said, we have an idea for Boone and the Spartan Pledge. And I showed him the front of the coin. I said, we're looking for something for the back. And he looked at us and he said, you know what? He got real excited. You could see it in his eyes. And he says, on the back, we need to put the axe and the sword crossed on the back. So when you see the back of the coin, that was General Flynn's. He worked hand in hand with Boone a long time. They were more than friends. And that was, he got so excited. And he says, the back. So that's why that's on the back of the coin. So the front of the coin we had designed, there's a lot of people who contributed. Astute Actual helped me get a couple of the graphic points ready so we could send it for distribution. A couple of the other people participated. Somebody else said, hey, we need to put Boone's, 4 admonitions on the coin. So we inserted them, on the back X. There were probably about 8 people that were involved in the design of the coin, maybe more. And so it was also born of relationships. And one of the things that I loved about meeting some of these people, you go to America's Future, and if you talk to them, none of these people treat you like a speed bump. We all know what it feels like to be treated like a speed bump. Our politicians do it to us all the time. Go say their piece, they will shake their hand and then pull your hand out of the way and get to the next person. And you really didn't matter. They just want your vote. But when you meet people in our community and you spend time and get to know them and you realize they're real people, not only they're real people, they care about others in the community. And Boone used to take, from my understanding from Melissa, Boone used to take calls all hours of the night. People might call him if they're in distress, and he would do whatever he could for people all the time. He had a heart for people. He had a heart for missions, and the mission was in his community. And, he had a way of providing information to you. And I didn't know him that well. I talked with a lot of people. I've watched a lot of his videos and after the fact, and you come to realize that he was very specific with his words. He didn't drop words just to sake of dropping words. He was very, very specific with what he dropped. And so this is an honor. This is my little part. I've got nothing in this. I've contributed. I also, put money in for the design and made a trip to DC, Washington, DC, to go present this to Melissa initially. But there's nothing in this for me. This is all for the foundation. This is all to honor Boone and everything he did for the warfighter community and for this nation at large, and for the Spartan Pledge. And if this thing goes wild, we can put a dent in the veteran suicides. Help these people get a mission. Help them find a mission of any sort, just so that they revitalize what they're about and who they are.
100% agree with you on that one. And it's purpose. It's purpose. And here's the thing, folks. And I haven't even told this to Chief Master Sergeant yet. I just know it's true in my heart. I just know it's true. If we can find a way to get this coin in thousands of veterans, one, it's going to require a lot of funding, but thousands of veterans, and these veterans have that coin in their pocket, and they know that that purpose of that coin is to give it to another veteran in need, that is a lifesaver in their pocket.
Or as a marker, you take the pledge, and after you take the pledge, it's a marker. It's a physical marker. It's not just the words you said. You now have a physical marker. And for many of us, that physical marker is what the reminder is.
Yeah.
It's more than a monument, because it was one-on-one, and now you've got a copy of it. So that was my hope and my prayer. This Penny's the one who came up with the idea, initially, and she called Scott Beer at the parade and says, "Hey, I'd like to do this, but I have no idea what to do or how to do it." And Scott says, "Hey, I know a guy." So Scott called me. It's like, I just designed a coin. And so, we had a few questions. We really couldn't use the Spartan Pledge without permission, because it's actually copyrighted by the foundation in Boone's name. And we wanted to make sure that we didn't do anything that was out of honor. So we made sure that we checked with those people that are there. And man, they just loved it. So we've got a lot of kudos on the video. There was about 5 or 6 people that all contributed to that. And Matt Struck was going to help us make that video, and he got called out to South Korea on a mission trip, and God bless him. So I said, "Don't worry, Matt, we got this. God's got other plans for you at the moment." And said, we'll figure it out. So it was made by amateurs, but I hope it got the message out.
Some of the best stories have 2 quotes that you just said. "We'll figure it out." And the other one you said a few moments ago, "I know a guy."
I know a guy.
Those 2 quotes usually end up in a very extraordinary story somewhere down the line. I want to bring up an image. I want to bring up a couple of images, actually. I was so excited earlier on the show in our conversation. I was enjoying it so much I forgot, but I'll work my way backwards. This coin right here. You talked about it a little while ago. You want to let people know what this coin is?
Sure. That was actually my dad had come across the coin a while ago, and it was a little bit like this, but it was really, really cheaply made. It was all brass, and he said, "Man," he said, "I'd like to make this change, that. How do we do it? What do you do it?" And so he had actually, before he contacted me, I got a great story to add to that, but he called me and said, "Hey, I contacted a company and they're having trouble with the design." Said, "Hey, I know somebody." And so I connected him up with the Challenge Coin company who's doing it. And I gave him some input, helped him with getting the design sent over. They responded back, and he says, "Man, that's beautiful." And the only thing we would have done different with is we probably would have had it made just a little bit larger. The Boone coin's gonna be a little larger than this. And so he gives this out. He goes to restaurants, he meets people, he shakes hands. So this is the coin that I had given to General Flynn and to Ivan and a lot of other people at the America's Future. And man, when they see this coin, a lot of them just light up. And it's spiritual. It's when you give your life, when you put the value of your life in somebody else's hands, when there's honor, it's nice to have something like that in your hand that kind of reflects where you're at. So you meet people, and people honor that and they treasure that. And that's one of the things. They're pretty heavy. They're bronze coins, and Boone's coin will look very, very similar to that. I know that the image that we have on the video shows it like grayed out on the outside, but it will be the shiny brass on the outside edge.
I look forward to that. When we get offline, I'll tell you about, you know, my private contribution that I'd like to make to help you guys. But I also want to go into these other photos that you shared. This comes from your personal story. So who's this guy?
Yeah, that's my ride. That was just before takeoff while we were doing pre-flight check. The pilot was in there left. He's got his checklist in his pant leg there, and the guy who does the egress and the life support systems is there to my right.
Man, that's so cool. That is so cool.
You squeeze in there. If you're 6'4", good luck. Good luck. You know, I'm 5'10", 190, and I fill the space.
And this is a zoomed out version of that bird.
That's when we return to the ramp and they're doing the recovery of the jet before they bring up the ladder. Engine's still running, but we had just landed and I was in the back seat.
Listen,
so it's hard to describe.
The only thing more beautiful and sexy than a woman or a motorcycle is a fighter jet. It is a fighter jet.
Yeah,
man. And then why don't you explain to my audience what this is?
It takes a little while. The Air Force rank is really, really difficult. The Chief Master Sergeant, less than 1% of the active force by law can wear Chief Master Sergeant. So it takes a while, a lot of work, effort to get there. I fortunately was able to land a significant job and then was able to do significant things in that job that put me in a position to be able to put it on. So it was 29 years almost of service.
And correct me if I'm wrong, that is the highest enlisted rank you can have.
Yes.
In the Air Force.
Well, you can get a command chief and you get a little star in it, but it's not a higher rank, it's just a higher position. And then you can do a command chief with Air National Guard or Air Force, and there's only one guy that fits each one. So there's only 51 or 53 people that wear that rank. You know, there's a command chief for each unit, each wing, and then there's one for each command, and then there's one for the whole force.
Right on.
So,
well, let me say this. One, thank you for spending this time with us, Chief Master Sergeant. It's been an honor to have this conversation. Thank you for your commitment, for being in this fight, for what you're trying to help do with the pledge. It's, you've already done a lot, and you're still doing, and that's it's people like you that is the reason why our country is still great. It's why we'll never lose. It's why nobody will ever beat us, because I know, and there are thousands of people that have your love for country and your love for your fellow American, and a lot of them are watching this show. And so I just want to say, folks, normally I say if times are tough, it's okay. But even if times are tough, find a way to help these guys.
The warrior ethos, of our guys, the professionalism of the vast majority of them is unquestionable. I mean, people complain they don't get overtime, whatever, but when you're active duty, we would get, even when we got activated as guardsmen, we had to maintain our full military expertise in our career field, and we had a civilian job, and we were all worldwide qualified. So they would call us up. My shortest deployment to go overseas was 4 days. They called me up. They needed me to go up to Alaska. It's considered overseas. And I did one. I went to England for 2 months on like a 6-day notice. It was really, really short. But the expertise that the guys all do is amazing. People kind of laugh at the Guard. They used to call them weekend warriors. But I'll tell you what, we got guys that have been loading weapons on these jets and troubleshooting and fixing them for 25 years now. That's in 1994. I think they got the F-16. They've been combat ready. Interesting, in the video, Boone mentioned Panama. When the guys went into Panama, my Guard unit was actually in Panama. I had passed on that trip so I could take my final exam to graduate from college. So I passed on that trip. They were in Panama for Operation Just Cause. My Guard unit. So they maintain this level of expertise, and we got guys that jet engine mechanics that can walk up to it and basically put their hand on it, feel it, and say, yeah, we got bearings going out in the number 3. It's like, how do you know that? They've just been doing it that long. So the professionalism is there, to honor that, I think is important.
It absolutely is. Paul, do me a favor. I'm going to move you down to the studio. I'm going to give my final thoughts to the audience.
Absolutely.
But I want to share something with you, so stick around. Folks, you've seen it scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Find a way to help these guys out. If you never had the opportunity to meet Boone, let me tell you, you would have loved him. It was actually I'll be doing another Boone show, hopefully in the next few weeks, and I'll share a more intimate story with that when that time comes. But I will say this, I had actually been communicating with Boone for several months before I realized he was actually Boone Cutler. And again, a little bit later, I'll share that story with you guys. But I'll tell you what, he did answer the phone. And not just for the pledge, just for anything. If you needed help, if you had questions, if you were trying to get something accomplished, he answered the phone. And so I would ask you guys, answer the call and find a way to help these guys out. And as Boone would say, protect your mind, control your emotions. So folks, do me a solid. We're going to go to our last ad. Stick around, support the people that support this show, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Good night. God bless, and Semper Fi.
Last winter, the world met Madame Margie, the moistureless. But while Badlandia banded together at Gart, she evolved. While deep in her lair, she uncovered 4 sacred instruments of hydration. The lip balm, the lotion, the tallow bar, and the new stainless steel gua sha. Together, they wage war. Flaking has fallen, roughness retreats, dryness trembles, and among the rebels, Mother's good boy. But elsewhere in Badlandia, rebellion grows, the beards remain.
Shave them all off.
Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code Mama's Boy for 20% off your Mother's Day bundle. Can't choose the right sacred instruments for your mother? Offer them all with an e-gift card. For softness, for victory, for moms.
These